Good morning. So today we are going to go over another component of AWS Educate, and we're actually going to be going over, let's see, we've already done the content repository, and now we're going to do actually classrooms and credits. So there's multiple ways that you can actually create a classroom within AWS Educate. The way that I usually do it, you go to request or go to an AWS Educate classroom. And go ahead and move this down to the side a little bit. There we go. So these are the templates that I mentioned earlier. There are 7 templates now. This one, the starter template, was recently added. Sorry. And so what there is you can see like the descriptions of each different template. And it says up here you can use up to a maximum of 3. And you can just read through it if you're wanting to focus on, if your curriculum is focusing more on machine learning and AI, building websites. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a starter account template. So if you're not certain like what you're wanting to utilize, like if you're really new, if you're really just now starting to get into AWS and you're not familiar with things like this EC2, S3, and RDS and what all that actually does, and the description's not really giving you any kind of better guidance, use the starter account template. Now it does say not to do any other templates with this, but the starter account template is a good place to just kind of get your feel for it. You hear the saying, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And if you're brand new to AWS, or if you're brand new to introducing it into your curriculum, one bite at a time is my best recommendation. That's how I've been doing it for the past year or so. I slowly start to acclimate it to my curriculum as I can. I think it's important to give my students a well-rounded experience of the different tools that's used in today's professional field. So that includes GitHub, which does integrate with AWS, VS Code, and some of these other tools that are not necessarily with AWS, or they may be able to integrate it, but not necessarily a component of AWS services. So VS Code would be like an alternative to Cloud9, for an example. VS Code is still used a lot. It's Microsoft's IDE. It's a great tool. So we get started on one tool, and then maybe the next semester we start focusing more on something else with AWS. And the point of that is to give them a more well-rounded experience to the multiple tools that they might be exposed to in the workplace, whether it's internships or jobs or whatnot. And they may find that they just have a preference for one. That's our job as educators, is to expose them to different things and let them have that playground to build upon their experience and find their preferences. So anyways, so what you would do after you figure out, the 3 that you wanted to pick, or just do the starter account template, you would select it. And then on the second part is you go to next and you would enter your classroom details. So you would need a course name. Let's see, intro to computers. Let's just do something like that. You would need a course number, and I'm just making stuff up right now. Computer 101, fundamentals. For the link, I just usually put Hocking College's URL. On the course date start, or course start date rather, you can put whatever you need. You can post date it. So if you're planning for your fall schedule, where'd it go? Okay. You can post date it to start in August. For this demo, I'm just going to do this one. The course end date. So, you can set it to a specific date, like the end of your semester. But if your experience shows that sometimes some students need extensions, life happens. This past semester has been a perfect example of that. I have some students who've needed some extensions, just trying to deal with all the chaos that's been this past semester. So, you can provide an extra couple months just as a cushion, so to speak. I mean, you can always edit it later on, but if you want to go ahead and give yourself a buffer beyond the last date of the semester, you can do that as well. Someone go ahead and put an end date of something like that. So what's nice about AWS Educate is the fact that if you're familiar with AWS, you do know, even though there's a free tier, you have to provide a credit card. And for a lot of students, that's a deterrent. They don't want to provide a credit card information. Maybe they don't have one, or they're just afraid, something's going to be charged. And those are all valid concerns and valid reasons. So what's nice about AWS Educate, you can request an amount of credit for each student. $50 is the default. You can use less. If you want to use more than $50, they might ask you to give you they might ask why, what you're going to do with it. They're not necessarily saying no, they just wanted a little bit more explanation on it. But you can, like I said, you can always do less as well. $50 in my experience has been a perfectly fine amount, and as long as they remember to turn things off whenever they're not using them. But that's another thing. But okay, so you can put in there whatever you're wanting. I want to go ahead and put 10. And then what else can you do? The estimated enrollment. So for the estimated enrollment, you can put however many students you anticipate are going to be there. And let's see, I'm going to leave this unchecked. And the way you actually upload students is, and I'm not going to go through this process, but there's a template, and all it is a Excel file in a CSV format. And all you have to provide is their email. You don't have to provide names, student IDs, anything of that nature, just their emails. So you download it, fill in the content with the emails, and then you upload the template, by selecting choose file. And then you hit submit. And I'm not going to go through this whole entire process right now, and I'll show you why. So after you submit your classrooms, you go to your classrooms, and I already have several classrooms because I've done tutorials and classes previously, so you can see my list is getting rather large. So what happens is after you submit a classroom, there'll be something, it won't say active and it won't say go to classroom. It'll be like pending or something indicating is going through a process of approval. And the approval is usually done within a day. It doesn't take long. So after you get that approval notification, it's usually an email, you would click activate. And then the course is currently inactive and students cannot access it. But clicking activate below will activate the course and allow students to access it. Would you like to continue to activate this course? Yes. Okay. So then you would go to classroom. Okay, it's talking about it's going through a third party. Okay. So I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Vocarium is the name of the third-party platform that the classrooms are hosted on. So on the top left-hand corner, you can see Intro to HTML, which is something that I made up for another tutorial. And you can select student, and you can see a student was pretty much just me. Again, this is for a tutorial. So what you can do, let's see. Let's find another one. I'm trying to be cautious of not, sharing in confidential information of my students. So, okay, here's some that I did for a class, and let's go ahead and go to this particular student. So what you would do is you would go to work area. And work area it takes you to this screen first. And you go to AWS Console. And what this is going to do is actually take you to their AWS Console that they're utilizing through their AWS Educate account. So you can see what they've done, whatever your assignments were. You can go into their, like if you want to look in their S3 bucket, if you're wanting to look in their Cloud 9, if you're wanting to look at anything that they've been playing with or whatever the assignments were, maybe they're working something on the side and they want to, share it with you so that you can, provide your own input on that. Whatever it is that you're wanting to do, you'll be able to access, through their actual AWS console. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, they actually get access to the full AWS console. There are a couple limitations through AWS Educate, like I am, and maybe another one. I think Route 53 are a couple of limitations that they don't have full access to through the AWS Educate account. But for the most part, probably about 95% of the part, they have full access to all the AWS, resources, and they're able to play with them and learn on them. And utilizing the AWS Educate platform, go ahead and get this away. Utilizing the AWS Educate platform, and without having to worry about running up a bill because they're going to have the credits. So this is how you can utilize AWS Educate in the classroom for your classroom, and to give students true experience with AWS Console. And what I like to do is, after the end of a semester, is to remind my students to update their resume. This is the time to update their resume of the things that they've learned, of the skills that they've learned and acquired, and the tools that they use. Because jobs are going to be looking for specific AWS services that they have experience with. And it's too easy to forget, and it's too easy to be in the rush whenever you're trying to update your resume, whenever you're trying to right then and apply for a job. So this is the time at the end of the semester, is to update their resume, the tech skills and the things that they've learned for AWS and on their resume. So this is the tutorial on how to utilize the classrooms, how to get started. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.